How can the study of internationalism make sense of our world today? So I think our current world is undergoing a period of significant change, as we can see, though its final outcomes cannot be easily predicted. I suggest, however, that there are two important elements that should be considered, although their meaning is yet unclear: the scale of politics and patterns of inequality. I think that the study of internationalism, and in particular the examination of past ideas about the desirability and feasibility of various forms of relations between and across states, can help us make sense of our world today in relation to these two elements of scale and inequality. Regarding the scale of politics, internationalism can help us understand and investigate the various spaces of politics at our disposal. Thinking about politics beyond the state is necessary for coming to terms with our interconnected world, which faces today the challenges of a global pandemic. Yet internationalism should not be limited to one interpretation that prioritizes, for example, relations between states, nor should it give a prime role to specific institutions like the League or the UN. Instead, I think that internationalism is useful for investigating the spatial dimension that can help us understand the meaning and potentialities of the international space today. So the study of internationalism, and perhaps in plural in the past, can help us understand what is the international space today and how it relates in particular to other political spaces and other scales of politics, such as the global, the regional, and the transnational, not to speak, obviously, of the national space of the state. Each of these dimensions carry different political weight, different practices, and different conceptual content that have shifted along the years. And each of these has also generated an ism, such as globalism, regionalism, nationalism, transnationalism, that exist alongside internationalism and cannot really be separated from it. So if we want to understand the world today, I think that we should bear in mind that the study of internationalism should be juxtaposed to other political spaces and examined alongside, in comparison, and perhaps in opposition to alternative political spaces that have been imagined and constructed, especially in the last century. The second concept that I think is useful for understanding our world today in relation to internationalism is the notion of inequality. I think that the events of the past months or so have made clear that inequality is one of the major issues confronting the world now. And even in the context of COVID-19, we see that despite many people saying that we are all in it together, in fact, the impact of the disease on various populations is differentiated along lines of existing patterns of inequality, may they be economic, social, or racial. So while the world today is interconnected, it is also importantly divided. And these divisions, I suggest, should interest us also in the context of the study of internationalism. And in fact, the history of internationalism or the evolution of past ideas about what international cooperation should mean can help us make sense both of the creation of inequalities, such as racial, social, economic, gendered, but also to bring to light patterns of collaboration and cooperation that have existed across nations through internationalist movements, trying to protest and to make amends against these existing inequalities that we still see. So the various solutions to the problem of inequality have often been imagined on an international scale, and the study of internationalism may widen our own horizons about the possible toolkit that we have to find solutions to these issues today as well. And so the internationalist perspective that sheds light on thinkers, organizations, and movements that saw inequality as a problem larger than the state's national community gives us a useful vantage point on the past interpretations of this problem, but also on potential prospective solutions. Such ideas may sometimes help us explain our current crisis, but may also ignite our imagination and inspire new solutions, following perhaps roads untaken or utopian visions linked to the history of internationalism. So I think through the two issues of scale and inequality, the study of internationalism can really help us understand better our world today, but more importantly, look into the future for new visions and new interpretations of what politics may be in our upcoming years.